All right. We back with another episode, Fueler Crush Podcast, Season 5, Episode 3. Let's talk about it. Again, this season I am talking about education and from a standpoint of the parents, the buy-in and just being able to support their kids. Also thinking about their history with academics and education, their viewpoint from before and after. And I just really wanted to bring individuals in that could speak to it, who are doing it at an amazing clip. And so, with that being said, we'll kick off the intro and get right to it. Jesus Christ. Play. All right, again, Fueler Crush Podcast, Season 5, Episode 3. We're back at it, and this time I said it before, I'm bringing friends. We got the Thompsons, Alex and Rosa with the special glow-in-the-dark nightlight. We're going to start it off with letting y'all introduce yourselves.
I guess it was an APB out for me.
Let me go get a lamp.
Hello, Alex Thompson. Been a Madison resident for 13 years now. Been an educator the whole time, 3 kids of my own. And here with my wife, Rosa, who has lived here her whole life.
Hello. Yes, I'm a lifelong Madisonian. Left for college, came back. Been an educator in the Madison Metropolitan School District for 17 years, and I also am the executive director of Black Girl Magic, and we have 3 kids.
All right. I will say this. It sounds like it's going in and out a little bit, but I did hear that you talk about the Black Girl Magic, so let's start with that. Go ahead and speak on it, promote it. Let's talk about it.
Sure. All right. Black Girl Magic is a nonprofit here in Madison. We do programming to inspire, empower, and celebrate Black girls. And that looks like school-based programming, after-school programs, or during school. And it also looks like Saturday programs in our annual Black Girl Magic Conference. And we do a Melanated Mindfulness Summer Camp. Pretty much, we just want to make sure our Black girls are cared for and celebrated in Madison.
Oh, I love that. I love it. I know I've seen the Black Girl Magic Conference a time or two, and just always see the positivity and the excitement that the kids have when they're there.
Yes, we love it, of course.
So, jumping into it. So, one being from Madison, one, Alex, you're from Racine, Res?
Yes, I am.
So, what was y'all educational journey K-12? How was that for you? Like, were you really studious? Did you struggle? Did you find? So let's talk about it. I want to hear what it was before becoming educators.
Well, I wouldn't say I was the most studious person in the world. I would say that, growing up, I was a kid that school came relatively easy for me, to the point where, I can just sit in a class, absorb the information, and then get an A on the test. This was not the time that we have now where we talk about standards-based grading. And so that approach didn't necessarily lead to the best grades, However, I did get the knowledge that I needed in order to be successful.
Yeah, I think for me, I was lucky that I had parents who could advocate for me because my behavior definitely didn't match up with my academic abilities.
Okay.
But by high school, you know, I was into sports, and sports was what made me really want to excel in school. And then, like Alex, school kind of came a little easy for me. Um, so college was a big awakening of like how to study, and but for K-12, um, yeah, it was really I wouldn't be here without teachers and my family members who advocated for me to make sure that like what I presented um, to my teachers wasn't distracting from my actual academic abilities.
So I heard say behavior. So one, I want to ask, what was those behaviors that kind of got in the way? Um, because I know I was a social butterfly. I got that on my report cards all
Yep.
K through, like growing up. And I knew that kind of got in the way, but also at some point I wasn't necessarily confident or comfortable being smart. Like trying to find that crowd to fit in, and I don't know why, but our culture, we're the only culture that'll tease you for being smart. So
Right.
like let's dive into that and like how you guys managed or navigated that.
You go ahead. You talk about your behavior.
I definitely talk too much. And I wasn't a pushover. So I wouldn't give in even if you were an adult if I didn't feel like you were right. And that didn't get me very far. Um, but um, I would say that eventually, being kicked out of class and suspended, I realized that wasn't the way to go. Um, More so because I got tired of being punished at home. Um, so I started taking things more seriously. But really, it was a lot of it in middle school was trying to fit in. Like you said, getting good grades wasn't cool. Um, but it's what came easy. Um, but so then I had plenty of time to, hang out, which is what got me in trouble.
I
completely understand that part.
I was always a kid who just wanted to do his own thing. And I never understood, if I can get 100% on the test, why are you giving me an assignment to review what I just went over? I'm not doing that. I'd rather be outside playing basketball. so give me the work that's going to actually teach me something, and I'll engage in it. And I was that headstrong, probably all the way up until now. Like I need to know how this is going to benefit me. If it's not, then good luck on getting me to engage in it. But my behaviors when I was in middle school, what oh, my behaviors when I was in middle school, I would say I always want to do my own thing, but I was big on respect. If I felt that I was being disrespected, I knew that my hands could garner some respect that I wasn't given. And so I got into a lot of altercations and whatnot. But I would say that there's not one that I regret. It's usually somebody's picking on me or thinks they can like bully me, and it's like you're gonna find out that you can't, buddy, and you're gonna have to prove everything that you just said about me. And eventually, I ended up
Now,
growing out of.
were you always bigger than everybody then?
No. When I was in fourth grade, I was 80 pounds. So like I wasn't always bigger. When I started to get bigger once I got into middle school. Once I got into middle school, I started doing push-ups, started wrestling. That was by the time I was in eighth grade, I was pretty big for an eighth grader, but I still wasn't the biggest kid around. Like,
Okay.
But we're built differently in Racine. Like you'll see dudes who are like in middle school. I had one dude when I was in middle school. I kid you not. When I was in fourth grade, he was on a opposing basketball team, and we played on the 8 foot hoops in fourth grade. And this dude was dunking. When I got to sixth grade, he was about 6'4", and so we had a lot of kids who were just like big, all different sizes.
ISO meal
Um,
babies.
yeah,
Mhm.
we did very well in football and racing. Let's just put it that way. So I was never like the biggest. I was not the smallest though either. But I was always strong and strong-willed.
So I know, Rosa, you talked about getting end up being on punishment and all this stuff that came at home for trouble that you might have caused at school. So
Yes.
like what talk more about the structures that were in place to make sure that you did what you were supposed to. I'm not going to say that that is or isn't lacking in today's society, or
Yes.
but let's talk about it.
Um, I know my parents always had open lines of communication with my teachers, whether I liked it or not. And so they were always checking in. They would come up to the school if need be. They were very present. And people knew that. And I think that's something that we also do as parents is we make sure the teachers know who we are. You know, I'm not afraid to pop in or sit in a class if my child isn't acting right. And I also do that for my Black Girl Magic kids, my, play nieces and nephews. Like, if you need an adult to sit in the classroom to make sure kids doing right, that will be me. Because we have those expectations, I think, from just being educators, from seeing what education did for us, and creating pathways for Alex from Racine to Madison. Education is what got me to an HBCU full ride. Like, I know what education can do, and I definitely want my kids and kids who are in my sphere of influence to have education as a way to experience the world.
I can't tell if it's frozen or not.
Do we need to switch computers?
I don't know.
Everyone can see it near us. Mute us.
Oh man, I am sorry about that. First time I've ever had that happen. Internet goes out in the middle of a stream. So let's get back to what we were talking about,
Yeah, I hope you remember everything you just said.
I
because
hope
it probably was powerful.
everybody.
Oh man, where were we? What were we?
You were asking about like what systems were in place so that we and like punishments so that we were successful, or structures.
Yes, talk about the structures.
You want to talk? Oh, I need to repeat mine. Okay. I was saying that my parents kept an open line of communication with my teachers, principals, whoever, um, and they showed up if necessary. And I think I was saying that's something that we definitely carry through is that we show up for our kids and their teachers. They know how to contact us. Um, text, call, whatever. They know that we want to know how the kids are doing. And I was also saying, like, I'm definitely not afraid to show up to the classroom and sit in the classroom if need be, whether it's with my kids, with my Black Girl Magic girls, with, nieces, nephews, whoever. Like, um, I was just saying that we view education as a way to open doors, and that, in order to be successful, at least have that opportunity to experience and get a great education. And that, even if you decide to do something else post high school, at least you have, the grades to be able to do whatever you want to do.
Now, I know you said something about the Black Girl Magic Girls. You do pop ups with them too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Did you need like a release of information to be able to do that?
Because of my job, most of the time it's within like mentoring. So I mentor first year teachers, so I can go into any school. I wouldn't have like a confidential conversation with the teacher about the student without checking with the families, but I definitely check in with the girls to know that I'm watching.
I know that feeling. I've been telling people, I was like, we're the new aunts and uncles now. Like
We are.
we got a bunch of adopted or claimed nieces and nephews. Some of them we
Yes.
claimed, some of them claimed us. So I
Right.
completely get it. I do the pop ups and the check ins too. Uh,
Yes.
so, Alex, what kind of structures were in place for you?
Well, we had a giant tree out back and a whole closet full of belts. That's about the systems that we had in place. But even more so, like my parents would always want to know what's going on at school, and they wouldn't hesitate to call. And then that cycle would then repeat itself. But me being the hard-headed young man that I was, it wasn't until there were things that I actually wanted to achieve and gain that really saw me lock in and do what I needed to do to excel. You know, other people as well who also
You
grew up
sound
in.
muffled. There it goes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now. Yeah.
Okay. What are you doing? Oh. But yeah, I'm thankful for all the other people in the community who were looking out for me, all of my coaches and mentors, who were the eyes when my parents weren't necessarily able to see what I was doing. So it definitely took a whole community to keep me focused on, trying to do as good as I can when it comes to school.
And that was the next thing I was going to ask was like, was there any people that really like, I don't know, that helped like it put some wisdom on you or made sure that you knew that they had a watchful eye? I knew Miss Evans, Mr. Waters, actually Mr. Billings, Gloria Lasson Billings' husband. He always, I don't know how, but he always just so happened to be in the right place at the wrong time for me and caught me in
Yeah.
the act of doing something I had no business doing. and
Yep.
my mom always made sure that she kept a communication with the teachers that I had too, from kindergarten all the way through high school. So was there any other people that you can specifically point to and be like, oh yeah, they definitely were people outside of mom, dad?
Yeah, definitely. Coach Thompson, people from Racine will know. Coach Dennis Thompson was a longtime football coach at Racine Park. He's also my track coach too. Taught the throws and taught me how to throw the shot put and discus. But he was one of those dudes who was always around, always in the weight room, always investing in kids, and played a big part in especially my high school journey. And then Coach Ellis as well, the head football coach. He's about 6'5", 6'6", 300 and some odd pounds. Just this large mammoth figure walking the hallways. Commanded respect and also showed us how to get and give and receive respect too. So between those couple, and then some of the other coaches and teachers that I had, yeah, that's what kept me motivated, kept me driven. But by the time I got to high school, it's about the goal that I had. Like it wasn't about my parents keeping me in line at that point. And so that's kind of the mindset that I have when dealing with older kids, is that it's not going to be about how your parents punish you. It'll be about what goals that kid has, and how can we show them the steps that it's going to take for them to reach that goal.
Yeah, at some point it got to become intrinsic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess for me, by the time I got to Marquette Elementary School, I had some really good teachers, Miss McBee and Miss Zillman for fourth, and fifth grade. I had Dream Camp with Tyrone, Craddock, Barry, Cheese, Dave, all of them. Dream Camp really got me to lock in and know that school was important. And in middle school, I mean, Barry still works at O'Keefe, and he would be following us around, making sure we weren't in the in-school suspension room or they were like, you can't play basketball if you're in here. So we would all be like, oh, well, we don't need to be in here.
I just end up in the in-school suspension
room? I mean,
not
end up. There's things that we would do to get in there.
It's like, hey,
but they had a little point system. And if you lost enough points, you lost privileges. And we were like, well, we definitely not going to lose those. And then by high school, it was like Alex said, it was definitely basketball, soccer that kept me engaged in school. I had Mr. McPike, and, he was just such a
Mr. McPike was not playing.
Not playing at all. You were not in those hallways ever.
and if you were an athlete, having Mr. McPipe as a principal, it's like, yo, he did everything that any kid wants to aspire to be.
Yes.
NFL, Harlem Globetrotter, educator. Yep. It's like, man, what didn't he do?
Right. Yes. And you just didn't want to mess with him. So, one little get to class was like, yep, I'm on it. Or, if he had to check you. And then Mr. Thomas, too, was the same way. Lee Thomas, he was my grade level principal, and he definitely made sure I was doing what I needed to do, and took care of me when sometimes teachers don't treat you the right way. And so he definitely had my back a few times. So yeah, I wanted to succeed, but I definitely needed some people to step in at certain points to support.
I like that pun you threw in there. You were determined to succeed. I like that.
Yes.
So I also know that you guys, we've already talked about it, are educators. But what was y'all dream career as a kid? Was it always to be educators, or did you kind of fall into it, or something happened along the way to let you know this is where I need to be?
Well, I wanted to be a real estate a landlord. That was my goal, was to buy properties and then rent them out and go that route. And I probably would have went that route had it not been for some people who stepped in, especially when I didn't have a smooth K through 12 experience. There were times where you experience insecurities when it comes to just food and resources and whatnot. And so one thing that still to this day, I did football and track in college, but I didn't start track until my sophomore year. Not because I didn't want to, but we couldn't afford the $30 user fee when I was a freshman. Because dad's out of work. Mom had a job. She was an assistant at one of the schools. And so, it was me and 5 other people in that house who were trying to both keep the roof as well as make sure that we had something to eat every day. And that just wasn't, top of the priority list. And so I definitely had my ups and downs growing up through that. And, like the impact, especially with those coaches looking out for me. I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll go back and that's something you don't necessarily need a degree to own real estate. That's my ignorant 16-year-old self, like not realize how complicated that.
But
that
my question, the follow-up question for that is, what ended up piquing your interest for real estate? Because I promise you, like, I didn't even hear about or think about that as a career or a profession until I was a grown man.
Well, in sixth grade, I had a math lesson, and they were talking about buying properties and whatnot as part of this junior achievement like unit that we were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me I can buy these and then charge people to live in and I'll make this much more? And then I just buy another one? I was like, okay, that sounds exactly what I want to do. And so that was always the goal to get into that. But, I realized you didn't need a degree. And I was like, I want to get a degree in something that allowed me to do something that I'm going to enjoy. And then I could always do that on the side. And so
I was going to say, is that dream dead?
No, it's not dead. It's not dead. But no, I ended up going and wanted to become a coach, and then know that if I'm a teacher and a coach, I can have a similar impact. And so I went to school for teaching and coaching, and haven't really looked back.
All right, Miss Thompson.
I've always wanted to be a teacher. I think by first grade, I knew I wanted to be a teacher. My mom was a school nurse. She worked at Lincoln, Wright, Midvale, all those schools. So I'd be tagging along behind her. And I was like, I don't want anything to do with the nurse's office. I don't do blood. I don't do bodily fluids. Like, this is just the whole smell. I was just like, so the only other thing to do was to go hang out in the classrooms while she worked. And I was like, oh, I like this. And so I think I said it in first grade, and that's all I've wanted to do. I went to Clark Atlanta to study education. Never thought about changing my major. And I still enjoy it. While my day job looks different, I don't work directly with kids anymore. I still enjoy being an educator.
No, I hear that. I knew I wanted to be an educator as early as the 5th grade. I ended up doing it, but it was at some point I realized I was standing in front of a class and I was like, man, I can be more impactful in a different way. Still working with kids. And so that's kind of when a lot of shifting started happening, and I ended up moving on to higher ed, but then still creating a consulting business to go back into the K-12 system. So yeah, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Now it's also funny just to hear you talk about being exposed to the nurse's office and not wanting to have any dealings with that, when I never, like, again, I'm thinking about it now. I was like, I was never exposed or thought about that. And I know for a fact I spent plenty of time in the nurse's office to get out of class. It's just like the way we have our different experiences and how the perception of however we view whatever's going on kind of like dictates kind of what we foresee for ourselves in the future.
Absolutely.
So now that y'all have kids, when you guys knew that they were going into school, or was it a conversation beforehand or having kids like, yo, this is how we want to kind of like raise them. This is what we want to put emphasis on, especially education, X, Y, and Z. Like, how was some of that, like, how did that come about? Not how the kids got created, because I know we all know what happens there, but
What'd you say, Jamal? You cut out for a minute.
But kind of just like, oh, my bad. It's just more or less like, as you guys, having your own upbringings and dealings with education, you get older, you kind of realize where some of maybe your own pitfalls were. Like, how did you guys start to communicate what you wanted for your children when it was time to have kids and then start going into school?
I think it was pretty easy. We wanted them to be successful. We wanted them to be driven. We wanted them to be motivated. We wanted them to have a well-rounded experience. And so when you have the end goal in mind, the way to get there, the route seems a lot easier to figure out.
I do think it was. I don't know if it was something like. I mean, we talked about kids and like how we want to raise them, but I think a lot of it was still like, in real time. Like, okay, we didn't know we were gonna experience this, so like, how do we want to handle this? Experience. And I think especially with our oldest, everything's new, right? For us
Right.
as parents. He's now a high schooler. We're trying to navigate that too. We were just talking the other day, like we haven't had to give him a curfew because like in middle school he would go where we dropped him off and then we'd pick him back up and he'd come back home, like, and now
he got a schedule.
yeah, now he's trying to be free, and now we're like, okay, time to regroup as parents and like figure out like what those boundaries look like, and still having those high expectations for school too. Um, and I think what Alex, especially being a middle school principal, he has taught me, like let the kid take some of this stuff on. So like for school, like he's like, you don't need to be all over him all the time because I'm coming from an elementary school background. I'm like, well, this didn't come home on a paper, and we didn't. The parents didn't get no notice about this, and what's going on. And he's like, it's middle school. That's what they do. Like things go through the kid, and I'm like, well, I'm not ready for that. So that was a learning experience for me. And with him having that middle and high school background, I could be like, oh, okay, now I see how this makes sense more. Definitely not hands off, but letting our son kind of figure things out, advocate for himself instead of parents being the first ones in there. Um, and so, but I also think each kid is different. So like,
Facts. Yep.
what he's doing now might not work for our girls in a few years.
And each situation is going to be different. But you'll never be able to get your kid to grow into a well-adjusted adult if they haven't had the opportunity to figure some things out for themselves. And so that's what the end goal is I want, once they eventually get off to college, which is the expectation, that will never be lowered. Once they get to college, I don't want them to have to figure out how to live as an individual. I want them to figure out how to prioritize the things that they want and need, how to manage their time, how to deal with conflict, how to capitalize on opportunities, how to persevere through adversity. And the only way they're going to learn to do that is if you allow them to do it in a space that's safe. As long as the stakes aren't literally, you're going to be, doing something that you can't come back from.
Right. Yeah.
The point where parents step in. You get ready to get in the car with somebody that you don't know, no, and then we'll teach you about why that's not a great idea. But some of the little things, if you got a C on the paper, you don't feel like the teacher treated you correctly, okay, well, go ahead. I want you to take the first step, and you're going to deal with it. And then hopefully that'll be an adult where when they see problems that come up around in life, they're going to want to go and deal with it. And hopefully, through some of those experiences, we can coach them through that. So by the time it comes that we're not here, all of those lessons won't be dependent on whether or not we're able to navigate it for them.
Right.
So what I'm picking up from two things that you said right away was the self-advocacy piece for them, wanting them to advocate for themselves, and then coaching them along the way so that way that they can make sound decisions when y'all not around.
Yes.
And two, make sure that you're having high expectations at all times. Yeah. So I just want to go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, for example, our son, he was on the soccer team, so their games were at 4:30. So they left school early, so he missed his 8th-hour class frequently, which was Spanish. So he just got his grades back, and his grade was not what we expect from him, and he wants better too. And so this weekend we talked through, like, well, what are you going to do? Like, you've missed a lot of class, sometimes 2 to 3 days a week. And so what are you going to do about it now? Like, what are you going to say to your teacher? How are you going to try and bring this grade up? because and we know that this grade is not acceptable, but you have another 9 weeks. In high school, you can always bring it up by semester, but like coaching him through like having those conversations, advocating for himself. If you need to go in after school, then you need to go in and get some help. But you need to solve this problem.
You need to solve this problem. I can't solve it for you. I can give you the advice. You got to follow through on it because it's something that you claim that you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I love that. And I just wanted to make sure that for any parent that is watching, that's tuned in, just making sure that you're taking away some tangible things that you can put in place if this is something that you feel like maybe you need some more support with, or maybe you need to try something different because right now you're not getting the results that you want. And so even before, you also said, know your kids' teachers, like know who they are, communicate with them, make sure that they know that there's an open line of communication as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So now that you've got 3 and they're at different levels, because the youngest is really young, right?
Yeah, she's a 3.
She's 3?
3, 7, and 14.
All right. Oh man, y'all are brave souls. Starting all over.
Yep.
Yeah, we got a little bit of everything.
Shout out to Monty tapping in. I have no clue what you said because all it does is tag me, but thank you for tuning in. But if you still have a comment that you were saying, type it in again. I got you. I'll make sure we ask questions. Folks, please feel free to ask questions. This is what we're doing this for. So if there was, as educators, what is something that you guys commonly see that are going well as far as like the home and kids situation, and some things that probably could be improved on?
I really think that at least for us, we're in a good spot. I think that our kids are learning, they're growing. Our oldest is, well, yeah. I mean, we're educated little parents too.
Yeah, I wanted to see both sides of that coin because they're not in y'all building.
No. So I mean, they each have their own way that they view themselves and view life, and so trying to meet them where they're at, that can be difficult at times. But I wouldn't say that they're in a space where they are. They have their needs met, I'd say. Where the space that I'm working in right now, I often see a lot of parents who are heavily involved with their kids. They want to know what they're doing, and they will often trust their kids way more than I think their kids have shown them. And so, like I say, the other day, my daughter was in dance. I tell this story all the time. She was in dance, and I come in. I'm like, well, why are you sitting out? It's like, well, I was in class and I was running around and I accidentally tripped and turned all the lights out. And I looked at their face like that didn't happen. But then her son defended, why'd you kick my kid out of class? He said it was an accident. People trip all the time and hit the lights off. And they'll defend them to the T until it gets to the point where it's, something that's irrefutable, like kid had it on video, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh. And so I guess the main thing I'll say is that remember that these are human beings, granted that they're younger, but they still have the capacity for all of the great things that we know humans are capable of, but they still have the capacity for some of the other stuff too. So because you love them doesn't mean that you take their word for what it is.
They're always telling you the truth. Yes.
Ideas and motivations behind what they do and won't do, and what they want and don't want.
So then another takeaway would be like truly know your kid. Like I know for a fact my mom would hear a story, or a teacher might have called and said, Jamal did X, Y, and Z. And my mom would be like, yep, I completely wholeheartedly agree because I know that that's him. Then it might be a time where they call and I'm like, Mom, I didn't do that. And she can listen to what was going on. It was like, no, that ain't nothing Jamal would do. I know Jamal. Like, I know who my kid is. I know when he's lying. I also know when his typical behaviors and the things that he did. So it's like when you know your kid's patterns, you can call him out on the BS. And like you said, when you call him out and you explain what you know, they can't do nothing but continue to lie or accept it, and then you deal with the consequences that way.
Absolutely. Like, just believe the evidence is what I'd say.
Also know that sometimes your child does not act the same way that they act with you when they're out in public or with their friends. Like
As did we.
Absolutely, that was our free place. But just remember that, because sometimes I see kids that I know quite well, and I'm like,
and shocked.
happening here? Like that is not the kid that I see all the time. And so just remember that. But I think that's where having that open line of communication with the teachers is so important, so that you build that level of trust with the teacher to know, like, are they really taking care of my kid? Can I really trust that when they're in this class, they have my child's best intentions? And knowing that you can come up to the school, you have to check in at the office and you have to get permission, but you can come and sit in the classroom if you get permission from the principal, from the teacher. Like, school is not something separate. I always tell my new teachers, like, you are partners with the parent. The parent knows their kid. Like, you need to partner with them because they are the expert on their child. You are the expert on teaching, but they are the expert on their child. So make sure that you partner with them at all times.
So for any teachers that are listening, any new teachers, any veteran teachers, pay attention to that. On top of when you're making those phone calls, don't only call for negative stuff, because at some point you're going to have those parents that don't want to hear only negative about their kid. And so I used to make sure that I called, if I knew I was inheriting a student that had, a lot of maybe behavioral challenges early in the school year, when they're doing well, I'm reaching out to the parents, letting them know. So that way, when I call, when they're having some challenging behaviors, they're willing to work with me because they know that I have their kid's best interest in mind. But if I was only calling for negative all the time, I've seen it on Infinite Campus where they say, don't call me if it's behavioral.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
So we do got a couple of people that have got questions. Monty is asking.
His behavior, but if you're not getting those calls in behavior, you're going to get that call that you don't want to hear. And then there's going to be nothing you can do about it. You get that call from the jail cell talking about, hey, so-and-so did something crazy. And you're sitting there like, how can you get there? Well, along the way, there were people that saw that, but you cut off that communication.
And tried to communicate, and you cut them off.
Yep.
All right, so we got a question from Monty. He said, can you talk about the education difference between what you went through and how your kids are experiencing education?
Man, these kids today, they have so many more opportunities. I'm saying, like, you got avid people are looking at data to try to figure out how to get black kids to do this. When I was growing up, if you didn't do well, that was on you. There wasn't nothing wrong with the system. The system was just fine. It was wrong with that kid. And I think that now that we know better, we do better. And there are some things that, of course, work against us as kids of color and black kids specifically. But I would say that there is a difference, because now that we're realizing that aspect of it, that kids don't always view their situations as being something that they're in control of. And so, that's the thing, is to like push out, well, maybe it's somebody else's fault. Maybe it's the system's fault. Maybe, if they just started class a little bit later, then I wouldn't be so late. It's like, no, sometimes you just got to set the alarm clock. Sometimes you just have to be accountable for you.
Your boss ain't going to just say, you know what, you always late at 8, just come in at 8:30.
Yeah, because they have customers coming at 8. They need you. Like, there's a reason why that time is set. You might not know it, but there's a reason.
Now, I will also say that the system is definitely messed up too. Yeah. But I will also add to that, it was a little more clear cut and cutthroat when we were going to school. Like if you didn't take a test, you got a 0. You didn't get a 50. Do you know how hard it is to recover from a 0 than it is a 50%?
Yeah, you have to be great 20 times.
I was like, man, do you know how hard?
Remember all this like makeup work and being able to retake tests? I remember having a physics exam, and you had one chance to get that trajectory right on the paper. You failed. And I remember missing it and just crying. And my teacher was like, okay, you can try again. And I got it the second time. But like nowadays, it's like, take it over. And like, you need to take advantage of those opportunities.
Yeah, that's your experience. My teacher was like, dang, well, the next time you take this class, you're going to do so much better.
I had physics. I felt like I was really trying. I was really studying. Ooh. Like it was one of them times where I really, really like put forth the effort.
Yes.
And I remember not retaining none of this stuff. And I remember I got talking to the teacher. He was like, hey, see how this quiz goes? If you do well, because I know you've been and you've come in and get some extra help, we'll see what happens. I remember getting that quiz back that next day. I handed him the paper back and walked straight to the guidance counselor and dropped the course. I was like, this ain't gonna work. He didn't care. If I had turned and cried, he wouldn't have cared. But it was just one of those things, like understanding, like, yo, like we didn't get the same coddling that a lot of our students get now.
No, in fact, we got the opposite. I had a similar situation to you. I was in it was advanced U.S. history. And I'll never forget it. We had it was me, like the one black speck, and 30 other white kids around me. And I remember, and the teacher was black at the time. And there was a question that had to do something about the economics of the time. And I'll never forget raising my hand, answering the question. And then he looked dead at me, and you can throw all the developmental designs out. He was like, "No, Mr. Thompson, you're wrong." And then I looked, I was like, okay. Like, that was normal. I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm wrong. But then I saw this white kid raise his hand, say the same exact thing I said. He's like, that is correct. And I'm just sitting here like, hold on. What is the difference between what I said, what he said? And he couldn't articulate that. And it was at that point I was like, you know what?
This ain't gonna be it. This ain't gonna be
worth it. I'll see you later. And so yeah, I ended up dropping that class, and I ended up back in the advanced classes eventually, but I was like, I'm not gonna sit here through that. So I'm good.
We got another question. Emma Tomberline. It says, what do you see as pivotal in protecting Black children in this day and age?
What pivotal is that we have to protect Black children as a community. That's something that we don't do anymore. And so, like, when I was growing up, the thing that kept us safe was that we had multiple eyes in the community. Like, we had Brother Stewart at church, at Grace Temple. If I was going to the store, if I saw, Mother Jones at church, and whatever they said happened. It was law. Like, I saw your child doing X, Y, and Z. And some of them, they'll chastise you in that moment and tell
they
your
can
mama
give you the
about
consequences it. Right then.
Yeah, and then your mama give you some more consequences on top of that. And nowadays, what I see more of is more hyper individualism in the Black community. Like, this is my kid. Nobody can tell him to do anything but me. And that's not good, because you're not going to be there at every time to be able to give them the guidance that, it's some stuff like people just know as adults. And so you can get guidance from wherever. You can get guidance from a child who may know something way more than you do about a topic. Ask a kid about Pokemon. It's like, you would be foolish not to listen to somebody who spent all their time doing this. But I digress. When you limit all of the instruction and guidance from one person, you are also limiting the amount of instruction and the type of instruction that they can get to begin with. And our kids need to be able to get information from multiple different sources, multiple different places, and we all have to coordinate and work together in order to raise our collective children. And so I think more trust, and more cooperation and collaboration. It really does take a village to raise a child, and if we cut the village out, we're going to have a hard time raising our children.
Yeah, I agree. Rosa, what's your thoughts?
Oh, that's a tough one.
It's really tough. Yeah,
There's a lot. I mean, society as a whole, like, places lots of roadblocks in the way of our Black children. So I really think it's preparing them for how to deal with those systems that are set up to for us not to succeed. And so knowing how to navigate society, knowing how to navigate, you know, the world, knowing how to code switch when you need to, knowing, and I do think like having that village, but really having your kid involved in things in the community. Like, I remember I grew up on the east side, but I played for the Spartans and went to Mount Zion. So I was always over there, and I had a community over there. I had a community over here. Like, having those positive activities that your kid is in, expands that community, expands, the reach that people have over your kid, and provides all kinds of mentorship for them. Get them involved in Matum, get them involved in CEOs of Tomorrow, get them involved in Fuel or Crutch. Like, there are programs out here that support our kids to succeed. And I really think just giving our kids those opportunities to be in spaces where they feel validated and affirmed, because we know that they don't always get that at school. Even though we do our best, but we know
and they have it in a way that's a little different than us. Like, we were in school, it might have been us and one other Black kid in our class. Yes. Now they do have a lot more, but again, we're thinking of that system that was never designed for us. Right. It never was built to include us, which is something that I've had my own separate conversations for. But no, Rose, I think that because me and you both have mentorship programming, we kind of see it the same way, getting involved, having more eyes that can oversee, that can watch over them and call them out when they see them, that is also respected by them. And it transcends, like, it goes forever. Like, Mr. Billings can still call me out if he sees me in the middle of doing something. Deacon Brown still will check in with me when he sees me. Just those same people that, you were around when you were 9, 10, 11, 12. Now I'm 41 and I'm still having those same people that will check in with me or let me know, like, hey, man, I see you doing good things. Keep it up.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. I also think going to an HBCU really shows you like what it's like to be educated by and with people who look like you. You don't get that education that's crafted just for you in any other place. And I tell everybody, like, if you can, you need to experience an HBCU. There is nothing like it. You will have no types of support system. Like, my professors, when we go down to Atlanta, we go to his house to go see him and go check on him and hang out with him. Like, you don't get that at a PWI. You don't get that family. You don't get lifelong friendships like that. And I think that, in order to really see what education can look like, where Black kids are succeeding, you need to see what the curriculum looks like at a HBCU, because you could be learning about science, but you learn about African scientists. You learn about what we do, the biologists, Black biologists, and we don't get that here in a classroom. It's like, okay, let's check off all these people who we need to talk about, and we might sprinkle, 1 or 2 Black folks in here or Hispanic folks to, check some boxes. But to truly see a curriculum that's built for you, by you, you got to experience the HBCU.
I've been saying it and going hard for it since I've been back. Going to Alabama State was like one of the most powerful things that I experienced. Going there, getting embraced into the culture, just seeing Black excellence. Like, and until you see it, you don't understand it. Like, to the point where my oldest, up until maybe 2 years ago, she had no desire to even consider an HBCU because she said, "Why would I want to go to school with all the kids that act like this in our Madison public high schools?" And I was like, "No, that ain't what. That is not what you're going to see. You're going to see other Black kids that look like you that want to do well and thrive,
Yes.
but also have a great time socially."
Yes.
And
now, it's also like the first time I've seen, like, here in Madison, I felt like if you didn't fit in a box, like,
you can find one at an HBC. You can find one. There's so many different boxes.
People do everything. I mean, I met my first Black, what do you call that? What do you call that?
I don't know.
Not water skiing. Surfing. Surfing. He was from California, walking around. And I was like, "You surf?" I was like, "I've never met another Black person who surfed." And he was like, "Yeah. I mean, I grew up, in California." And I was like, "See, everybody has all these interests. And here at an HBCU, you can explore those interests. It's cool." People are like, "Oh, that's what you do. Tell me more." And you don't feel like you need to, like, fit in the stereotypical box of what a Black person is in order to have your Blackness validated at an HBCU.
You're going to get the full rainbow and the full experiences of everything that Black folks get into.
Yes.
We got one more question from the community before I ask my final question, because I know everybody wants to get to watch the Packer game. Allison, I'm not going to let you down. I got you, brother. Monty said there's a lot more material, though. They learn what we learn and all the technology and historical related things that have occurred since. How can we maintain the process? Does education need a refresh? One, education definitely needs a new refresh. Two, what historical stuff did we learn? I wouldn't say it all pertained to us, because the Black history that is taught in the schools, woof, I can't even go into depth on how shallow it is.
It was Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, and Ruby Bridges.
I don't even think them kids know about Ruby Bridges today, because I've said it before, like, Ruby Bridges is still alive. Like, they don't understand, like, that's
kids know Ruby Bridges. They read
it's not that far away. Like, that time frame is not that long ago.
No. I think there's no way, as an educator, there's no way to cover everything that you believe your kids need to learn. I mean, history is being made every day. I mean, in the political climate that we're in, you got to stay up to date or you're going to miss something. So I really think, like, we can only do so much in the school. Parents, wherever they go after school, you have to continue that learning outside of school. There is just no way to cover everything that you need to learn, especially about history, especially about Black history, and even just not even history, but what Black folks are doing, in society right now. It may not be in mainstream media, but you need to make sure you follow some of these smaller Black newspapers to know what's happening, what's really going on, because there's just not enough. There's just not enough time to cover everything.
And it's never expected for. I think there's a common misconception that you go to school and then a bunch of facts are then downloaded into your brain, and then you take that and you go and make a career out of it. But the purpose of school is not just to teach you how to read and then do math, but it's supposed to be able to teach you how to think, both about what your aspirations are and what is possible in the human experience, but also allowing you the ability to discern, both fact from fiction, or hold on, I don't know why that just decided to come on. Fact from fiction, discern real from fake, and the validity of a source, and how to truly go through that cycle of inquiry, of thinking of having a good idea and then trying it out and then trying to figure out whether or not it works and then reflect and adjust. Like that's the true art of education. And while they don't necessarily, they have to learn about iPods and iPhones and whatnot. We had to learn about cassette tapes and CDs. Like, there's always going to be new technology that's going to come out. But what we need to make sure that we're focusing on is, are we teaching our kids how to think and how to recognize both fact from fiction, real from fake, so that they can make the decisions that will help them move further, but also will help us innovate as human beings, so that the next big invention, the next thing that's going to advance our civilization, whether that's a cure for a disease, or that's a new piece of technology that comes out that changes the way that we interact, so that if we were only learning facts and fiction, facts and figures, and we weren't thinking about how humans could coexist and mingle and cooperate differently, then we wouldn't have the technology that we have. And so it's that process of thinking big, thinking outside of the box, and then using the tools that you learned in school to be able to advance civilization.
Well, you just put us on game even more. Exposure is key, so we'll talk about how key exposure is, whether it's career, whether it's learning about self, whether it's learning about the history so it doesn't repeat itself. But just the level of exposure is going to be huge regardless. So my favorite question as we wrap this up is always, based on what you know now, what is something that you would tell your younger self?
Ooh. Okay. Number one, well, this is what I tell middle schoolers, is it gets better. Because I swear, middle school is the toughest time. I wouldn't go back to middle school if you paid me. I wouldn't. I feel like that, like, self-discovery time, like figuring out who you are, like who you want to be, plus getting all that peer pressure. I think, like, it gets better. And whoever you are, however you show up in the world, is okay. You don't have to conform or fit into any box in order to have friends or, to be successful. I think, just telling my younger self, it's okay. It's okay who you are in this moment. And knowing, I think another thing what I would say is that friendships change.
Mm.
Um, Friendships change, and like that doesn't mean anything has to happen. It just means that you can evolve as a person, your friends can evolve as a person. And so putting all your loyalty to a friend that you have at 12 or 13 or 16, like, you may not talk to them at 20. And so just know that what you put into yourself is what is the most important. Because, you are what you have.
Alex, looking back at your who you are today, looking back, what would you tell your younger self?
I tell my younger self, one, whatever it is that you're thinking about right now, it's probably not that deep. It's not as serious as you think it is. You think the world's gonna end because you missed it? No, you'll be fine. In fact, you need to miss a few more of these things because life is gonna be much better on the other side if you do what you're supposed to do and you get these grades. Don't go
Sounds
sit
like
in the weight
FOMO.
room much. Go to that after school study session. Get the best grades that you possibly can, because at the end of the day, LeBron James does not have Elon Musk's money. So learn how to do something. Sports are fun, but don't take your eyes off the prize. Information and knowledge is power, and if you know more, then you can leverage more. That's how people get ahead in the world.
Now, I appreciate that from both of you guys. Now, I would also ask this then. Is that something that you got? Hey, shout out to Mom Dukes pulling up. Great conversation. Thank you. Um, is that stuff that y'all also preach to y'all younger selves that y'all created?
Mm-hmm. all the time.
Yes.
It's like, it's not that serious. You'll be okay.
Yeah.
And not my younger selves, even the younger people that, I'm talking to.
Encounter on a day-to-day,
I
yeah.
tell all times, like, look, you're 11 right now. I've lived your life 4 times over. I've thought exactly what you're thinking at this moment. But this is where the flaw in that logic is, which you'll learn later on. But I'm giving you that game right now.
Man, I super appreciate y'all pulling up, tapping in. Y'all just hold tight when we wrap this up. But again, thank everybody for tuning in. Fueler Crutch Podcast. We'll be back next month. So until next time.